cognitive light cone, just to make clear, is about goals that you can actively pursue now. You said linear, like within reach immediately.
No, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't mean that. First of all, the goal necessarily is often removed in time. So, in other words, when you're pursuing a goal, it means that you have a separation between current state and target state at minimum. Your thermostat, right? Let's just think about that. There's a separation in time because the thing you're trying to make happen so that the temperature goes to a certain level is not true right now. And all your actions are going to be around reducing that error, right? That basic homeostatic loop is all about closing that gap. When I said linear range, this is what I meant. If I say to you, this terrible thing happened to 10 people, and you have some degree of activation about it, and then they say no, actually it was 100, 10,000 people. You're not 1,000 times more activated about it. You're somewhat more activated, but it's not 1,000. And if I say, oh my God, it was actually 10 million people, you're not 1,000,000 times more activated. You don't have that capacity in the linear range. You're sort of right. If you think about that curve, we reach a saturation point. I have some amazing colleagues in the Buddhist community with whom we've written some papers about this. The radius of compassion is like, can you grow your cognitive system to the point that, it really isn't just your family group. It really isn't just 100 people in your circle. Can you grow your cognitive light cone to the point where, no, we care about the whole, whether it's all of humanity or the whole ecosystem or the whole whatever. Can you actually care about that the exact same way that we now care about a much smaller set of people? That's what I mean by linear range.
But you said separated by time, like a thermostat. But a bacteria, I mean, if you zoom out far enough, a bacteria could be formulated to have a goal state of creating human civilization. Because if you look at the, bacteria has a role to play in the whole history of Earth. And so if you anthropomorphize the goals of a bacteria enough, I mean, it has a concrete role to play in the history of the evolution of human civilization. So you do need to, when you define a cognitive light cone, you're looking at directly short-term behavior.
Well, no. How do you know what the cognitive light cone of something is? Because as you've said, it could be almost anything. The key is you have to do experiments. And the way you do experiments is you have to do interventional experiments. You have to put barriers between it and its goal, and you have to ask what happens. And intelligence is the degree of ingenuity that it has in overcoming barriers between it and its goal. Now, if it were to be that, now this is I think a totally doable but impractical and very expensive experiment. But you could imagine setting up a scenario where the bacteria were blocked from becoming more complex, and you can ask if they would try to find ways around it, or whether it's actually, their goals are actually metabolic, and as long as those goals are met, they're not going to actually get around your barrier. This business of putting barriers between things and their goals is actually extremely powerful, because we've deployed it in all kinds of, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, but we've deployed it in all kinds of weird systems that you wouldn't think are goal-driven systems. And what it allows us to do is to get beyond just the what you call the anthropomorphizing claims of saying, oh yeah, I think this thing is trying to do this or that. The question is, well, let's do the experiment. And one other thing I want to say about anthropomorphizing is people say this to me all the time. I don't think that exists. I think that's kind of like, and I'll tell you why. I think it's like heresy, or like other terms that aren't really a thing. Because if you unpack it, here's what anthropomorphism means. Humans have a certain magic, and you're making a category error by attributing that magic somewhere else. My point is, we have the same magic that everything has. We have a couple of interesting things besides the cognitive light cone and some other stuff. And it isn't that you have to keep the humans separate because there's some bright line. It's just, it's that same old, all I'm arguing for is the scientific method, really. That's really all this is. All I'm saying is you can't just make pronouncements such as humans are this, and let's not sort of push that. you have to do experiments. After you've done your experiments, you can say either I've done it and I found, look at that thing actually can predict the future for the next, 12 minutes. Amazing. Or you say, you know what? I've tried all the things in the behaviorist handbook. They just don't help me with this. It's a very low level of that's it. It's a very low level of intelligence. Fine. Right. Done. So that's really all I'm arguing for is an empirical approach. And then things like anthropomorphism go away. It's just a matter of, have you done the experiment and what did you find?
And that's actually one of the things you're saying, that if you remove the categorization of things, you can use the tools of one discipline on everything.
You can try.
To try and then see. That's the underpinnings of the criticism of anthropomorphization, because what is that? That's like psychoanalysis of another human could technically be applied to robots, to AI systems, to more primitive biological systems, and so on.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah. We've used everything from basic habituation conditioning all the way through anxiolytics, hallucinogens, all kinds of cognitive modification on the range of things that you wouldn't believe. And by the way, I'm not the first person to come up with this. So there was a guy named Bose well over 100 years ago who was studying how anesthesia affected animals and animal cells and drawing specific curves around electrical excitability. And he then went and did it with plants and saw some very similar phenomena. And being the genius that he was, he then said, well, I don't know when to stop, but there's no, everybody thinks we should have stopped long before plants because people made fun of him for that. And he's like, yeah, but the science doesn't tell us where to stop. The tool is working. Let's keep going. And he showed interesting phenomena on materials, metals and other kinds of materials, right? And so the interesting thing is that there is no generic rule that tells you when do you need to stop. We make those up. Those are completely made up. You have to just you have to do the science and find out.
Yeah, you we'll probably get to it. You've been doing recent work on looking at computational systems, even trivial ones like algorithms, sorting algorithms, and analyzing in the behavioral kind of way, see if there's minds inside those sorting algorithms. And it, of course, let me make a pothead statement question here, that you can start to do things like trying to do psychedelics with a sorting.
Yeah.
And what does that even look like?
Yeah.
It looks like a ridiculous question. It'll get you fired from most academic departments, but it may be, if you take it seriously, you can try and see if it applies.
Yeah.
If a thing could be shown to have some kind of cognitive complexity, some kind of mind, why not apply to it the same kind of analysis and the same kind of tools like psychedelics that you would to a human mind? That's a complex human mind. It's at least might be a productive question to ask. What, because you've seen like spiders on psychedelics, like more primitive biological organisms on psychedelics. Why not try to see what an algorithm does on psychedelics?
Well, yeah, because you see, the thing to remember is we don't have a magic sense or really good intuition for what the mapping is between the embodiment of something and the degree of intelligence it has. We think we do because we have an N of one example on Earth, and we kind of know what to expect from cells, snakes, primates. But we really don't. We don't have, and this is, we'll get into more of the stuff on the Platonic space, but our intuitions around that stuff is so bad that to really think that we know enough not to try things at this point is I think, really short-sighted.